This particular psalm is not one that's wholly unpopular to pastors or to preachers. I, for one, am completely familiar with it for a couple of reasons. Here, a number of years ago, I preached a sermon at another campus, and I wore a suit to preach in. And because I'm all of 5'0", and I'm just a little guy, and me in a black suit, I kind of look like Mr. Munch. I'm just like this, like SpongeBob with a suit, And so I just wore this black suit to preach in, and people, I think, were like horrified. But here's the thing about suits. I don't wear them very much. I use them for marrying and burying. And so I had just completed a marriage that particular day, and I thought, well, I'll just wear my suit. Well, I haven't worn one since, unless I'm doing marrying or burying. But now here's the good news for you. Ever since the slim fit suits have come, I got a new one. I'll be trying it out on you soon. That's all I'm glad to say with that. I'll be trying it out on you soon. But I use a suit for marrying and burying, and I use Psalm 39 in almost every funeral I lead. This is why it's familiar to me. The other thing I occasionally use, like a suit, is Facebook. Today I wrote like the first post I've written in a long time. If any of you follow me, my wife told someone recently, Paul has very few friends on Facebook. Well, who can blame him? But if you are one of my 3 friends, then you know I wrote a post this morning. And I don't use it for a number of reasons, which I will begin to explain to you very soon. We'll get to that. This psalm that we're looking at this morning is composed, assumingly by David, to a worship leader under his care. Jason Darty is the worship leader here at the Rock because I couldn't find anybody else. And I love the guy. We love him a lot. And so it'd be like me writing a letter to Jason and telling him some things and sharing my heart with him. That's what David is doing to Jeduthun there in this particular psalm. He was likely a close friend, the way Jason is for me, of course. And so he pours out his heart to him and just kind of shares with him where he is in this regard. And you've done this with friends and people around you. David goes to him, and you can see this in verses 1 through 3. And David goes to him kind of in this kind of pre-informational venting that he says, this is what's happened to me. We don't know what happened to David. We don't know why he necessarily composes this psalm, but he composes it and he shares it with his friend. In the beginning, you can see some restraint that David is talking about. Like he went to his friend and he had to share this information with his friend. And he did, and he's telling his friend what happened. And he was saying, I was trying to bite my tongue. I was trying to restrain myself. I was trying to be very careful. I was trying to not say anything. And I was trying to be super mature and proper and upright and careful. And this was what he had wanted to happen. I think in the beginning you see in the psalmist there, the sense is that I can do this. Okay, I can do this. Some of you, I think, have said things and done things that in the beginning you're thinking, oh, I can do this. Only to look back later and say, oh, I couldn't do this after all. I really failed in that test. Well, it went on, I can do this. It went on, and he was holding his peace, but he was getting stressed. Do any of you know what this is like? Any of you ever come into the company of someone who really stresses you out? Any of you ever come into the company of someone who, maybe is really frustrated you, and they kind of are known for frustrating you, but you're going to be like, I'm going to rise above this today, and I'm going to be good, and I'm going to be mature about this, and I'm going to be Christian about it, and so I'm going to listen, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to high-five them in the name of Jesus. And you end up not doing that at all. Any of you done that, or is it just me? Well, I think he's holding on, but he's getting red in the face. I think smoke is coming out of his ears, and then he snapped. The fire burned as he spoke. And I'm sure glad none of you can relate to this except me. This little tongue of ours, this little tongue that's in my mouth, the little tongue that's in yours, it gets us in so much trouble, doesn't it? It's super useful at reminding us how broken and how frail each of us are, that tongue of ours. I think that our tongue is one of the last enemies to conquer. I know this to be true because I've been around older people who I've looked at them and thought, wow, Where did that come from? I thought that's something only teenagers did. Only to realize I did the very same thing the week before. I think our little tongue is difficult to conquer. Any of my little people, all the young ones in here, everyone look at me. Look at the pastor, any of you who are young, who would typically be in children's church. I have a question for you. All the young people looking at Pastor Paul, raise your hand if you're looking at Pastor Paul, everyone who's young. Okay, here's the question. Can you say bad things in your house out of your mouth? Can you say bad words? Can any of you say bad words? The answer is no, right? Correct? If you say something bad, do you get in trouble? Yes, someone said yes, you do. Here's the other hard question. Everyone look at me. Be honest because you're in church. So you can't lie. Here's the other hard question. All you little people, if you're in 8th grade or lower, answer this question. Have your parents ever said anything bad? Yes. Okay, all of you raise your hand if your parents have said something bad. Raise the hands. Okay, elders, take their names down so we can have special meetings with these families. Keep your hands up. Keep the hands up. We knew that your parents have said bad things because they have tongues too. You're really waving your hands over there. Okay, you can put your hands down. We know how this works. We know how this works. We're not exempt from saying bad things. You as adults, you as parents, I cannot teach my kids. My kids don't see that in me. Oh, yes, they do. You are a good teacher to your kids of what not to do also. Well, I have a story to horrify you because I'm good at self-deprecation. That's a gift that God has given me. It was at another ministry I had a number of years ago, and I had just finished a sermon, and there's this older gentleman and his wife who were coming through the lobby there to greet me afterwards, and he was also a part of my Sunday school class, and he was definitely an older guy, and he had a little bit of a gift to be cantankerous, let me just say it that way. But I had managed to find the ability to contend with him in a way that I thought was beneficial and constructive. And this, to my shame, he had been inviting my family to go to dinner at his house. And, well, he doesn't have any kids. My kids were real little at the time, and we found ourselves going to people's houses that had kids our age. And he caught me afterwards, and I could tell he was upset. And he said, Paul, I'm sick and tired of asking you to come to my house, and you don't ever come to dinner. And so again, now I didn't have the chance to get red in the face. I just popped off right at church. I said, Mister, I don't want to go to your house for dinner with you. I said that and I'm thinking, what did I just say? What did I just say to this gentleman in church who's just been trying to invite me and my family and my daughters to go to dinner with him? And I said, I don't want to go to your house with you. I'm sure I'll never get an invite again. And really, I've had 2 since then. So maybe this is my punishment. But you know how your tongue works, is my point, don't you? It's so easy to say things right out of the gates, and you never meant to say. That's what David is talking about here. Well, this brings me to my number 1 point. If you have your bulletin, open it up. If you have the Rock Church app, open that up as well. My number 1 point I see so far is what we say, how we say it. And if we say it, says much. What we say, how we say it, and if we say it, says much. Now, some people say that you should always tell the truth. I want to challenge that maxim. Should you always tell the truth? Husbands, if your wife says, do I look fat in these jeans? You answer that on your own. I think you can see where truth is appropriate, and other times it's not. If you don't like my sermon, hey, pastor, man, that was a horrible sermon, but praise Jesus that you might get better. Is it always better to tell the truth? The answer is no. No. No, I'll challenge any of you on that. You think that you should always tell the truth. What we say, how we say, and if we say it, says much. There's not one person who has not honestly gotten in trouble with their mouth. Maybe even today on the way here you got in trouble. Answering the pants question, I'm not sure. The biblical writers were not overcome with great tongue control. They wrote about this evil little device. We see accounts of how it has reared its ugly head. Job even spouted off to God with his mouth. Sarah also laughed at God with her mouth and tongue. Nabal was quick and easy to offend David, and other examples are legion. Psalm 10 says that under our tongue is mischief and iniquity. Proverbs 18 says that death and life are in the tongue. James says a whole lot of this, but in 3:6 he says that our tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. A world, he doesn't say a pocket or a sliver or a needle, but a world of unrighteousness. Our mouths don't speak on their own. They speak from what's in us. I don't know what was in me that day. Maybe it was a leftover bean burrito I had the night before. I don't know. Actually, I know what was in me. It's sin. Sin. The same thing that's in you is sin, and that's why we speak. Sin, anger, lack of self-control, unforgiveness, bitterness, etc. Matthew 12:34 says, this is not a comforting verse. It says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speak. Well, I said earlier that I try not to use Facebook too much. Why? By my example, I get in trouble easily enough with what I tell people in face-to-face conversation. Why in the world would I want to get myself in trouble also on Facebook for everyone else to learn about me? I think a lot of you can take a lesson from Pastor Paul in this. I think a lot of you say way too much. And you don't even realize what you're saying. And it reflects poorly on us as a people. Did you know in the new member class at the Rock Church, week 3, we say that proper member etiquette at the Rock is that you are careful in what you post. Well, again, I say enough things to get in trouble that slap my head. I don't need to also put it on Facebook. So David grasps this, verses 4-6. He understands this, and he immediately recognizes how weak and frail he is, which is what I remember. When I've hurt my daughters, when I have hurt my wife, when I have hurt the church member, when I have hurt a attendant at a gas station or at a waitress, again, you've done this. I'm reminded of just how weak and lack of control I do actually have sometimes. He acknowledges the shortness of life. And here today, gone tomorrow, I guess is what we can see. Life can be seemingly meaningless, almost as if life is a fog, as if this world only has turmoil. This is what David is feeling like. The world is only turmoil for me. I'm constantly getting in trouble. If you know anything about David, he does get in trouble regularly, but he also knows who redeems him from his trouble, which is his hope and my hope and your hope. Oh, this passage does not end so bleakly, though, praise Jesus. Which brings me to my second point. Our weaknesses and frailties in this life remind us of our need for the daily gospel. You need a daily gospel. There's a sense in some of us that I hear the gospel once. I heard it when I was 12. I heard it when I was 19, and I heard it at Bible college, and I was baptized. I don't need to hear it anymore. That is a lie from HE double hockey sticks. That is not true. You need the daily gospel because you daily sin. And the daily gospel reminds you that there is hope for your daily sin. You must be reminded and must cling to over and over and over again your need to cling to Jesus, who has authored the gospel and brought the gospel to you to redeem you. You need to be reminded of that every day. And every time you say something foolish, every time you offend someone, every time you send a message that wasn't supposed to be sent, you need to know that there is the daily gospel that is your hope, because you will continue to blow it. But as people of God, our desire is that we begin to mature in blowing it less. That's it. Not totally not blowing it, because that's not possible in this life. We'll only not blow it when we are laying in the ground and some pastor's wearing a suit. That's when you will master the tongue. And then it will only be on your lips as praise. Praise Jesus for that. So our weaknesses and frailties remind us of our need for the daily gospel. Again, I'm thinking I'm doing pretty swell some days. And then, boom, I blow it with my mouth, or I get caught in the lie. You know how this works, right? Then I realize what a wretch I am. And that's what David is saying. Oh my gosh, how frail and weak I am. punish me. I'm so deserving of punishment, which is what I recognize for me. But he did what many of us won't do or don't do, verses 7 through 11. He moves from failure in himself to faith in God. A lot of you won't forgive yourself. A lot of us won't move on. A lot of us keep perpetuating our failure and living in our failure. And the gospel is the truth that says you can be released from your failure. Yeah, you have blown it with your tongue, but we have this beautiful thing that's equally powerful as the hurt in our tongue, and that's that we can ask for forgiveness with our same tongue. When we hurt with that member, we can also with that same member say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? I went to that gentleman and apologized to him, and he forgave me. And some of us, that same tongue that hurts, because of pride in us, we won't go to somebody and say, will you forgive me? I've been harboring this, or I have pride in me, or I did this, and I don't want to come to you, but I need to come to you and say, I am sorry. You can use your tongue for good. And this is what we see as a truth that we cannot avoid. David places his trust in God. He rests in God, knowing that He will redeem him, that He will deliver him ultimately. That's our hope. That's your hope. That's my hope. He does not want to live a life of folly, a life of hardship, but he knows at times he will. This is the case of this life. We will struggle in this life. He knows he'll say rotten things at times, but that if something edifying or good comes, that it comes from God. Even our best acts, Augustine and Calvin and others said, are really just, in Calvin's word, acts of civic righteousness. But they're always marked by something in us that is even for shame or this other sin behind it. But we can move forward because of the gospel. David knows that discipline is a necessary component of love. And when my kids would talk back to me or my wife, we would discipline them. And sometimes when you use your mouth and you get in trouble, we'll expect the discipline. It's natural. But that does not mean that you have to live in perpetual fear and shame of what you have said. You can move on. And again, how do you move on? Number one, forgive people. Number one, forgive yourself also. Do those both. God disciplines those He loves, we're told. But it is through suffering that we truly grow. And there's no other way. And as I counsel you, and as I've counseled others, here's what I recognized. More often than not, whenever we find ourselves in a struggle or under some turmoil or under some kind of duress, I like to remind those people that the issue, quote, whatever that issue is revealing more about you than it is about that issue. What you ultimately struggle with, that you have an issue with, is revealing more about you than it is about the incident. Your lack of processing, your inability to forgive, your lack of understanding the gospel, your gross misunderstanding of what the Bible says about sin. It reveals more about you than the situation. George MacDonald, who is loved and adored by whom many of you quote or have books by C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis would quote George MacDonald, is what I'm trying to say to you. George MacDonald said something similar. He says, everything difficult indicates something more than our theory of life currently embraces. Let me say it again, because it's very powerful what he is saying. Everything difficult indicates something more than our theory of life embraces. End quote. In other words, when we can't deal with or accept something hard, it's likely due to wrong conclusions that we have drawn about humanity, ourselves, sin, the world, etc. Well, my third point, realizing that life is short is an opportunity then to make all of life count. Realizing that life is short is an opportunity to make all of life count. We tend to only live when life is easy. But even in our struggles is when we can celebrate, and we should waste no time. Divorce, cancer, job loss, All of these are occasions to live life before God with peace. A very popular pastor named Matt Chandler had cancer. He's a young guy, younger than I am. As if I'm young. What was up with that? See, that's that tongue again. Hyperbole. Jeez, shoot me now, fast. He's a young guy. Came down with cancer. His wife, Lauren, and they went through a very difficult time. His church was very supportive of him. And others have talked about how the need is that even through your difficulty, this phrase came out of this experience, don't waste your cancer. In other words, let difficult things are happening to you grow you. Let difficult things happening to you benefit others. Let difficult things that are happening and occurring within you draw you to God. Don't waste it. And that can be expanded to your divorce. That can be expanded to your depression. That can be expanded to your job loss. That can be expanded to your wayward children. That can be expanded to X, Y, and Z. Don't waste it. Let those things be opportunities and a testimony to the God who has his arms outstretched saying, come to me, all ye who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Well, again, we tend to only live when life is easy, but when in our struggles and when they come, we also can go to God with peace. Even though it may not be easy, we can still find ultimate, eternal, long view rest in Him. Closing out this psalm in verses 12 to 13, David knows this life is not all there is. But he does want the rest of his life here to be full and for his walk to be with God. That song, It Is Well, do any of you know the backstory to the song, It Is Well? If you do not, I would encourage you to Google that, not now. Don't be saying, I've got to get on the Rock Church app real quick and write something down. No, just wait. Google that. The only way that man could write It Is Well is if he was looking for his peace to come from the Lord and not from anything in this world, because he lost much. Well, in those closing verses, David knows that life is not all there is as he is experiencing it. But he wants a full life, and that walk with God will mark that life he wants on earth. He says a few things. We're almost done. Thank you, all my little people, for being so patient. He says, hear my prayer, Lord. Well, let me tell you this about prayer. Prayer brings our needs to God. And he says, hear my prayer, Lord. Prayer brings our needs before God in this regard. Then he says, give ear to my cry. Give ear to my cry, God. Cries bring our helplessness to Him. Prayer brings our needs. Cries bring our helplessness. Then he says, don't withhold peace at my tears or at my weeping, in your version you might have. Weeping brings our urgency. Prayer brings our needs. Cries bring our helplessness. Tears or weeping brings our urgency. And then he says, because we're just really sojourners and guests, which really is this. We are all alone here on this earth. We're strangers unless God, He befriend us. And no one wants to be a stranger. No one wants to just pass through unnoticed. And God is the one who calls us by name, who says, today is the day of salvation. Today you can move from sojourner and stranger to friend. No longer do I call you strangers, but I call you friends, or maybe more appropriately, brothers, or maybe more powerfully, sons and daughters would be the way. We know from Deuteronomy 10:19 that the Lord loves His aliens. The Lord loves His aliens. Church, may we leave this passage today figuring out that this little thing needs constant control. That little thing that gets us in trouble can also be a great source of blessing by just simply using it to edify and build up and exhort. Maybe today you need to go to someone and say, I'm sorry. Maybe you today need to go to someone and say, you know what, I know you have a struggle with me, and I want to be the first one to say, you know what, you haven't asked for forgiveness, but I want to bury the hatchet and not leave the handle above the ground. And I want us to go back to our relationship. Can we do that? Because I really care about you. Your tongue can be used for that too. May we leave this passage today right here on terms of peace and joy, not tears, so that we can smile again. We have much to be thankful for. And you look around this place, it's much more drab today without any of the things that we normally have, because this is we're strangers to Kofa after today. But we will not be strangers to our new home. We've moved from my home to here, and from here we move and make it the next trek to the promised land, so to say, next week. God has been with us at the start. He was with us in the middle. He's with us now, and He'll be with us at the end. Let us never forget the Lord who is faithful, who does not let us down, who reminds us to live our life fully, the way David is reminding you to live your life fully despite what your circumstance is, and to live that life honorably. And may He be glorified. Make sure, church, you invite all people next week to services. We are going to have 2 services at 9 and 10:30. I'm going to ask all of you that if you invite people and you see that there are a lot of people and that it might be standing room only, then that maybe you stay for the next service if you come to the first. I don't know what's going to happen, but praise will be on our lips, right? And we will not complain if it's hot, because if we don't know this is going to be our first week in there, we're going to try to have everything working. It might not be, but praise will be on the lips of the people at the Rock. And let's see what God does. And may you be a part of how you say and speak this week. You are carriers of the gospel. May people hear that gospel. May people hear from God through you. Let us pray.